Have you ever wondered how a truly groundbreaking idea comes to be? Not just a minor improvement, but a whole new way of looking at things? Well, today we're digging into how researchers build these incredible theories. And, here's a spoiler, it doesn't start with massive spreadsheets. It often starts with a single compelling story. So, let's ask that question again. How do great theories really get born? Where do the ideas that fundamentally shape business, science, and even society actually come from? Is there a process for it?
Well, the answer might surprise you. It's often not about crunching numbers from a huge population. Instead, it starts much smaller, much more focused. It begins with a deep dive into one specific situation, one story, to see what truths are hiding inside.
And this whole journey really kicks off when we run into big unanswered questions. You see, this method is tailor-made for those high-stakes situations where we desperately need to figure out the how and the why behind something important.
Just think about this for a second. This is a real example from the research. A company in a super fast-paced industry literally went out of business. Why? Because its leaders just couldn't make decisions quickly enough. Now that is a high-stakes problem you want to understand.
So you might be thinking, okay, why not just grab a standard management theory off the shelf and see if it applies? And that's exactly what you'd think to do. But here's the catch. The researchers looked, and the existing theories on decision-making just didn't cut it. They didn't really talk about speed, or the answers they gave just weren't satisfying. They needed something new.
Right, so if the old playbook doesn't have the answers, you've got to write a new one. And that is exactly where we get to the idea of building theory from cases. It's all about inductive discovery, letting the theory bubble up right from the raw evidence itself.
So here's the formal definition. It's a research strategy where you use one or more real-world examples to build new concepts and ideas. But the most crucial part is this. You start with the evidence, with the case itself, not with a guess or a hypothesis you're trying to prove.
In this slide really gets to the heart of it. Most of us are taught deductive logic, the stuff on the right. You start with a big theory and you test it. But this approach, inductive logic, completely flips that script. You start with the messy, rich, real-world data from a case, and you let the theory emerge from the patterns you find. It is discovery from the ground up. Now, don't for a second think this is just collecting a bunch of stories. It's incredibly rigorous. I love this analogy from the source material. Think of each new case as its own lab experiment. You're not just collecting anecdotes. You're systematically testing, refining, and stretching your idea with every new piece of evidence. And here's what that process actually looks like. You start with one case study, and a rough idea begins to take shape. Then you find a second, similar case to see if that idea holds up. That's replication. Okay, now your theory is a little more refined. So next, you find a different kind of case to see where the theory breaks. That's a contrast. And with every single step, that theory gets stronger and stronger. Okay, but I know what you're thinking. This can't be that easy, right? There have got to be some catches, some tough questions. And you're right. So let's tackle those hurdles head on and see how researchers handle them. This is the big one, isn't it? It's probably the #1 objection. If you only look at, say, 8 companies, how on earth can you say anything meaningful about all companies? It feels like you can't generalize. Well, the secret sauce here is something called theoretical sampling. And the key is to remember the goal. You're not trying to find out how many companies do something. You're trying to develop a theory about how it works. So you don't pick cases at random. You choose them strategically. You might even pick polar types, say a super high-performing company and a really low-performing one, because the stark contrast between them makes the underlying reasons pop. All right, hurdle #2. A lot of this research comes from talking to people, from interviews. But aren't people just telling you a story? Maybe they don't remember it right, or they're trying to make themselves look good. How do you get past that bias? This is where the real detective work comes in. To limit bias, researchers don't just talk to the CEO. They talk to tons of people at all different levels and in different departments to get the full picture. They mix interviews about the past with watching what's happening in real time. And, this is critical, they cross-check everything with hard data, like internal documents or reports. You build a 360-degree view so no single story can throw you off track. Now, this one is actually a tough challenge for the researchers themselves. When you study just one case, you can tell the whole rich story. But when you have, say, 8 cases, you can't possibly fit all 8 of those novel-length stories into one research paper. So how do you prove your theory without drowning everyone in details?
And the solution is this really clever and powerful tool, the construct table. Instead of telling 8 long stories, researchers can organize the evidence like this. For each key idea, what they call a construct, they can show you the specific proof from each and every case, all in one place. It lets them present a mountain of evidence in a really clear, compact way. This right here, this is the bridge that takes you from story to science. So, now that we've seen how this works, and how it stands up to some pretty tough criticism, we can really appreciate why it's so important. It really is the bridge to new theory. Let's talk about why that matters so much. What's the payoff for all this hard work? Well, you get 3 amazing things. First, you get a theory that's accurate because it's born from the real world, not an ivory tower. Second, it's usually incredibly interesting. It uncovers things that big surveys just can't see. And finally, and maybe most importantly, it's testable. It creates clear, solid ideas that other researchers can then go out and test on a massive scale. And that's exactly why the source material calls this method one of the best bridges from that rich, story-based evidence to mainstream science. It's the engine that generates fresh new ideas that keep whole fields of research moving forward. It's how we get from a single story to a theory that can change the world. So, I'll leave you with this thought. Think about your own job, your own organization, or even just a hobby you're passionate about. What's that one complex how or why question that nobody seems to have a really good answer for? Maybe it's just waiting for its case study.